Hello and welcome to episode 127 of Fergo and the Freak. I'm that bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can find me on Twitter at AndrewRLP. Joining me as always is the glorious League Freak, who you can find on Twitter at League Freak. How you going there, mate?
All right, it's a bit of a somber episode with the news about Kobe Bryant, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, felt pretty sad all day about it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's had a bit of an air of misery, I suppose. Yeah. Pretty sudden, shocking news, that.
Yeah, it was terrible. But we'll talk about the footy news first because we are a rugby league podcast, and then we'll get to the Kobe Bryant stuff a bit later on.
Yeah, so we figured we might just couple a whole heap of miserable pieces together in this one. So talk about all the rugby league miseries that have happened over the week.
Yeah, there's been a few weird things that have happened. It's been a bit of a mixed bag, hey?
It has, and let's get to the big story today. Curtis Scott, the Canberra Raiders' new recruit from the Storm, has been, was it arrested? Yeah, after being resisting arrest and refusing to leave someplace near Moore Park, and he's been a bit of a naughty boy.
Yeah, but it's not his go, and he deserves a second chance, and he's a good bloke, and does stuff for charity too, probably. So I'm sure he'll be fine. But I tell you what, being tasered, that's pretty big. He was thrown in jail overnight. He allegedly kicked and punched an officer in the face. So, I mean, he's got some pretty serious charges that he's up against. And it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, the NRL's got to stand him down, obviously. But it's the last thing that the Canberra Raiders want out of their new recruit. And, I mean, man, what a way to start at a new club, hey?
Yeah, so he's got 6 charges against him. 2 counts of assaulting an officer in execution of their duty. 1 count of resisting an officer in execution of their duty. Behaving in an offensive manner in or near a public place or school. Behaving in an offensive or indecent manner and remaining on/enter trust lands after being requested to leave. He was granted bail and will appear at Downing Centre Local Court on Thursday, February 20.
Yeah, and I mean, you wouldn't want to be in his shoes.
Well, on those last 3 charges probably won't amount to much other than a bit of a slap on the wrist and a fine and stuff. But 2 counts of assaulting an officer and 1 of resisting arrest. Oh.
Yeah, I wonder I mean, you would think that, I don't know what you would get for assaulting a police officer. I can't imagine you just get, probation or good behaviour bond. You know what I mean? I can't imagine they're going to be okay with that.
They might go leaning on 1 case of assault, but when there's 2, well, I don't know. It's dodgy waters. I think he's I think the NRL has to stand him down. They've got no option here.
Oh, 100%, 100%, and he deserves it too.
Yeah.
Man, I tell you what, you leave the Storm and things fall apart. Hey.
It's funny though. We're just talking off air about how we go back 5 months or so, and everyone's going, "What's going on at the Storm? They're losing all these players." Then you had 2 Storm players getting in trouble over in Bali, and now this guy who's just left getting in trouble. You think, maybe the Storm let him go for a reason. I mean, he did miss a fair chunk of last year. Wasn't that for something other than injury?
I can't remember, to be honest. I always feel like the Storm very rarely lose obviously the Stars, it's hard to keep them, but the mid-table to lower table players at their club, it's very rare they lose the ones they really want to hold on to, and yeah, maybe they just got to a point where they realized they needed a bit of a culture change or a clean out or whatever it was, maybe just an overall attitude change in the club's roster. I don't know, but it's funny how, and we've joked about it on this podcast, you don't buy Storm players because the Storm get the absolute best out of players for the most part, and they leave to go to other clubs and they just don't perform as well.
Yeah, it's amazing how that happens.
Mm.
I just found an article here from May 9 last year, where Craig Bellamy said form was the reason for Curtis Scott admission, but apparently there was also he was having a bit of an issue with his partner at the time as well.
Oh, okay.
So,
well, there you go. I mean, and he's only young. He's only 22, something like that. But I mean, it doesn't excuse what he did.
Because especially when you consider these players get so much more education on how to behave themselves and how to treat people respectfully and things like that than any other person would at that age, and so there is zero excuse for this behaviour.
The other thing is too, like, even if he's only on $200,000 a year, he's making a hell of a lot of money for someone that young. It's not like he has options with that money to choose better things to do with his time than to, fall asleep in a park or something.
Exactly.
It's just silly.
I mean, with $200,000, he could almost buy a laundry in Sydney.
He could buy like a really, really good compact parking spot somewhere.
Yeah. So I'll stick with the bad boys news. Jaipo Ngowi from the Broncos has been charged by police for a driving infringement after he was found asleep in his car.
Yeah, and we were talking about this before too, because we like to do podcasts and then record just basically talking what we've already done.
Yeah, we do a really good podcast and then we go and record and do the shitty version. That's what we post out for everyone.
Let me tell you, the first conversation we had was fantastic.
Fucking stellar.
It's illegal to be drunk and sitting in a driver's seat is my understanding of a car, even if it's not turned on or anything.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's maybe what's happened. And he's thought, look, I can't drive, I'll sleep it off. And they've found him asleep in his car. They've breath tested him, and it's not a great look, but it's way, way, way better than him drink driving, even if he didn't get caught. So I can't be too upset at him, to be honest with you. What do you feel about it?
I'm the same. At least he made the right decision to go to sleep. I'm hoping he didn't drive too far. I don't think he'll get punished too heavily. He will cop a fine. It'll be a decent sized one based on what his reading was. But I don't think there'll be much more than that. I can't see him being stood down or anything like that because I think his is a pretty open and shut sort of case. I'll have this one sorted out pretty quickly. Yeah,
I agree. And it's easy to second guess people after they've made decisions, but I mean, if you're a young bloke and you are drunk and you've got your car somewhere, man, even though he has this drink driving charge technically to his name now, the fact that he was like, no, I'm not driving, I'll try and sleep it off. I mean, that was a good decision, and not a great situation, but probably the best of all of the bad choices that he could have made. So it'll be interesting to see what they do find him, because they will find him. They've got to send a message, but I think it'll probably be just a slap on the wrist more than anything.
Guaranteed the fine he'll get from the NRL and or the club will be much bigger than the one that he'll get from the court.
Oh yeah, 100%.
The court will probably say, $1,500, $2,000 or something like that. The club will sting him $10,000.
You reckon $10,000, hey?
Probably.
Yeah.
What's $10,000 to an NRL player these days? It sends a pretty decent message without hurting their back pocket too much.
Yeah, once they get to a certain point, it's interesting how fines for poor behaviour or off-field incidents have changed over the last 10 years. I mean, you think back to how much Mark Gasnier was fined for that phone message that he left. I think he was fined something ridiculous like $50,000.
Yeah.
And then Mitchell Pearce, I mean, he got smashed. He got absolutely hammered with a fine a few years ago. So yeah, and like the fines that rugby league players get, like the $10,000 fines they're pretty big compared to the rest of the sporting world. Like even professional tennis players, even NBA players that have been fined, they don't get $10,000 fines that often.
No, it's that thing where NRL kind of has this understanding of the culture and the perception that a lot of the players have given the game and stuff over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And so they do everything they can to try and make themselves, I guess, look professional and above board and, full of exquisitely behaved humans. Mm-hmm. So they do tend to want to crack down harder on bad behaviour when it happens. And I think to an extent you could probably argue that it has been working because, let's face it, it's only been really until now that we're starting to get a few shitty stories, from the off season.
Mm-hmm. And like compared to some of the other off seasons, they're not like devastating.
No women have been assaulted this time around, which is a bloody good start.
Yeah, exactly. So I actually saw one publication, and I can't remember what one it was, saying that the Offengawi thing continued the NRL's off-season from hell, and I was like, man, they dragged that headline out of nowhere because it's been
got to be Herald Sun.
White one,
That's got to be the Herald Sun.
Yeah, it might have been.
Now, we've got a bit of signing news here. First one is actually not a signing, it was a refusal of the signature. And Josh Dugan reportedly rejected an offer from Catalan Dragons.
Oh, really?
Because apparently, and this is the bit I don't understand, is according to someone at the Sunday Telegraph, take that with a very, very small grain of salt, that he's on the outer at the Sharks and he's behind the likes of Matt Moylan for the fullback gig at the Sharks, which I find absolutely astonishing.
Yeah. Like, even if he was, what are the chances Matt Moylan's going to be friggin' fit for a month straight,
I think if you did a basic test on rugby league intelligence and you said to someone, you've got to choose a fullback between Josh Dugan and Matt Moylan, if you took everyone who said Matt Moylan and told them to leave the game and never come back, rugby league would be better for it.
That'd be fantastic. Oh, jeez. Yeah, I agree.
The games, the IQ of the fans immensely. And I don't think there'd be many people who'd be saying, yeah, Matt Moylan for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I see. I hadn't heard that deal from Catalans. Did they say how many years it was for?
I think it was just for the remaining 2 years on his current deal. And the story suggests that the Sharks offered him to Catalan, and Dugan didn't want to go. So the article's pretty much suggesting that he's happy to sit in reserve grade for 2 years, earn an $800,000 a year. But the problem with that is that his next deal is going to be completely, not going to be worth a bloody dog's breakfast, really.
Yeah,
which is the risk he runs doing that. But I don't know. I can't see that he would be on that much of an outer.
Well, I can see where a coach would be looking to maybe go in a different direction, but he'd definitely be part of your plans. Like he would only be someone you could write off as a coach if, say, some youngsters stepped up or something like that. Like, he's not someone that you could flat out at this point of the year already say, yeah, I just don't want to use him this year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, especially when your alternate option is Matt Moylan. Like, if that's what you're left with, then why not ship Moylan off? He's young.
Yeah, Moylan might actually go well in Super League. Hey,
that's where he's suited. If we're honest.
Really is. It'd be better for him in terms of maybe staying on the field. I think the problem might be that I guess the standard of professionalism over there might drag him down a little bit I'm trying to be I'm trying to tiptoe here. You know?
No, I think I think it'd be good for his career. It'd rejuvenate him a bit, kind of like what happened with Lachlan Coote over there at St Helens.
Yeah.
And who knows? We might see Matt Moylan playing for England in the World Cup.
That'd be so funny.
Why the fuck not?
Yeah, they might as well at this point, hey. At least then they'd have a fullback.
well, maybe if he lines up for Wales, he can get a gig over there at fullback.
Yeah, I wonder if he'd qualify for a nation like that. You'd think he would, eh?
Of course he would. He'd have someone there.
Yeah.
In other news, it's been reported that Joey Laulua, formerly of the Raiders, has signed a 3-year deal with the West Tigers. And some of the talk suggests that the Tigers have signed him on the cheap, which, yeah, I call bullshit on that.
Yeah, it'll be the first time in Tigers history, West Tigers history.
Yeah, Tigers don't do anyone on the cheap except coaches.
Yeah. Administrators.
Justin Potato.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, people who matter. That's who they get on the cheap.
Yeah. Well, and we were saying once again before the podcast that if you found out that Joey Leilua was on $700,000, like down the track per year at the West Tigers, you wouldn't be totally shocked because
no, not at all.
Fucking when I found out that Moses Mbai was on like nearly $900,000, I'm still happy about it.
Yeah, I sort of, that's the sort of signing, and you look at the money, you just, as a Tigers fan, you just shake your head and laugh because you just go, I'm not surprised. Of course they paid him that much. Look, I'm not opposed to the club signing Laulua. I mean, they've got bugger all depth in the backs, but my issue is the club needs a hooker. Like the hooker they're putting all their eggs in is Jacob Little, and the poor bastard just gets injured every 15 minutes he plays. Yeah, and he's going to be missing the first half of this year as well. And the club had an opportunity to get Isaac Luke, who would have been fucking fantastic, even for half a season. Just pay for him 1 year. He'd have been brilliant for that first half of the season until Little was fit.
Yeah.
Perfect. Missed him. They could have got Danny Levi, who has I'm pretty sure he's played a test match for New Zealand. And while he may not be absolute world class, he is a genuine 9, which the Tigers don't have. And he'd have been a good depth signing as well when Little comes back, because the Tigers are going to need a 9 who can play off the bench as well, because Little has never played an 80-minute game of football. Yeah. And he's going to be coming back from another pretty bad injury, so there's a fair chance we're going to need to rely on a genuine 9 for the whole of the year. So Danny Levi, to me, seemed like a pretty good and cheap option. It would have been very handy there. And instead we didn't sign either of them and signed a centre.
And the thing is, too, when the alternatives at hooker that have been talked about are Moses Mbai, who's not a hooker. Like, I don't know what his position is. He played some good games at centre for the Tigers, but I'm talking like 1 or 2 last year. But he's not a hooker. And then Josh Reynolds, who knows what's going to be happening with him in terms of the integrity unit. And on top of that, he's not a hooker either.
No. And the last one was Billy Walters, Kevin Walters' boy, and he can play hooker, but he's also, like his old man, he's a 5'8". And, no first grade experience at hooker as far as I'm aware, so there's a few young guys getting around in lower grades. I don't know if the Tigers are signing him. Billy Britton is one who's an absolute gun. Another's Harry Grant. I think the Storm have got him locked down though. But those two would be the 2 best young hookers out there that would be NRL ready. Yeah. But Tigers, as usual, just sitting on their hands doing nothing.
Well, you made a really good point about their recruitment when we were talking earlier about who they go after.
Yeah, whoever's available.
Yeah. And I hadn't thought about it before.
Sign a name and one that's placed first grade at another club. If you sign them, then you deal with the ramifications later as to where you play them.
Yeah, and they've always done that, the West
Mm.
Tigers. It's
Hmm.
crazy.
And I wish they'd just say, you know what, if we don't need it, if we can't find what we want, then fuck it, let's just sit on our cash and wait until something comes along and then get what we need. But instead, they just
Yeah,
go, no, we've got to buy someone, we've got to do something. They
and
feel like they've always got to spend that money.
they've got Joey Leilua for 3 years, right? And I agree with you. Like, if they'd got him for 1 year, I'd be like, the money's there. Might as well spend it for the year and look towards the future. Look for recruiting for the future. But Joey Leilua is not going to turn them into a premiership winner in the next 3 years. They need to build almost from the ground up. Like that, if you look for 3 years from now, they'll have Luke Brooks and they'll have some of their forwards. But I mean, Benji will be long gone by then. Joey Leilua is going to be 31 by then. Like they need a plan. It's almost as though they need a plan. And like the recruitment that they do, I mean, they even picked up Reynolds because the Bulldogs didn't want him. On Bio was a similar situation. It would have been great if they could have got Latrell Mitchell, but once again, it's a club that's willing to let someone go under contract. They they need a plan. They need to start not only producing more young talent and bringing them through to first grade, but like they need to just let Maguire build a team rather than just chucking it together. It's almost like putting together a fantasy team, and it's like, well, I can get Leilua, and that's not how you build a team long term.
No, that's right. And look, they've been linked with a lot of players, obviously, but Adam Dewey's off contract. The Tigers have been linked with him. I don't know how serious it is, but he'd be a handy signing. Alex Johnson from South would be perfect at fullback.
Yep.
At the moment, the Tigers' spine looks close to one of the worst. Actually, I'd say they do have the worst spine in the comp, because at the moment all they've got is a good pair of halves, and that's it.
Yeah,
They've got a winger filling in at fullback, which will be Corey Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
And whatever Moses Mbai is filling in at hooker.
Yeah,
You can't have filling players taking up half your spine. It's ridiculous.
No, and for this time next year, Benji's probably going to retire unless he just for some reason decides against it.
They can't keep hanging on Benji hanging around though. I mean, he's playing great footy, but he's 35 this year.
Yeah, it's eventually he's just not going to be able to go on. His body will tell him, no, that's it.
Yeah.
And look, I would love to see him play for 3 more years if he can physically do it and he wants to do it. I loved that he had the form last year, that he probably was going to retire at the end of last year, but he knew that he wanted to keep playing, and you could see he really enjoyed his football too, which I really loved. There's a point where when you've been the best player in the world at some point, and you start to fall away from that, and some players, you can see that they're sort of dragging themselves through the motions, and some of them, they get through that point and they come out the other side and they just enjoy playing footy. And he's at that point now. Brad Fittler come to that point too as an elite player, which was awesome to see. Andrew Johns didn't get a chance to get to that point because he got his neck injury. Darren Lockyer was a little bit different, but he kind of got to that point too. I love watching Benji Marshall play, and I mean, the West Tigers are so lucky that they've got that wealth of experience in him. I mean, there's literally nothing Benji Marshall hasn't done in the game. And man, without him, where would they be? I think if he didn't have Marshall next to him, I reckon Brooks would have said, look, I can't keep doing this with my career.
No, Brooks has always played well with Robbie Farah in the side, like a genuine 9.
Yeah.
When he hasn't had a genuine 9 to help take the pressure off him, he has struggled hard.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing I worry about this year is we don't have a genuine 9. I think Brooks is going to struggle a lot. I don't know if Benji's going to be able to help him out as much as he needs to, because Farah had a pretty good year last year, and
Oh,
that took
I think it was the best year of his career overall.
it was one of his better ones, and it just gave Brooks so much more freedom to do what he wanted to do. He wasn't the only kicking option in the halves. Wasn't the only creator, and so Brooks is able to play more of his running game, but that's not going to be something that's going to be available to him this time around, especially if we. That Tigers pack is just, yeah, it's middle of the road. It'll be somewhat competitive most of the time, but it's never going to dominate an opposition side.
Yeah, they haven't got that. They haven't got that player that's just got that something a bit extra, have they? You know what I mean?
No, they've got a few young blokes coming through, but they're just not quite there yet.
Yeah.
Oh boy, the squad is just a mess.
The thing I worry about is that if Benji comes out mid-season and says I'm definitely going at the end of the year, and they don't sort something out with that hooker position and they have a real bad year, I really do worry that Brooks, who at this stage is on a pretty nice contract for a first grade halfback, like he'd be on less money than a lot of first grade halfbacks that I would dare say he's better than. I worry that he will start looking at other opportunities. And if they lose him, it's a complete reset for the club. Like, they've got to start from scratch.
I don't think he's on huge money. Something tells me he's on 600.
Yeah, and like a $600,000 halfback with now as experienced as he is, man, that's friggin' cheap.
Yeah, I mean, by the end of this season, he'll have 150 games to his name.
Yeah.
And he'll still be 25 years old.
Yeah, unbelievable. And like, you could see a situation where, say, South Sydney with Reynolds, if he has a really badly hit, injury-prone season, I could see someone like South Sydney saying, look, we could get Brooks, and he's going to cost less money, and he's younger, and he's not injury-prone at all. And we know what we're going to get with him week in, week out, you know what I mean?
Any club with a decent forward pack will take him, and they'll give him whatever they want.
Yeah. Like, could you imagine him playing halfback at the Storm?
Yeah.
And that's what worries me, is that there'll be other clubs around the league that'll be thinking about this. And he is super, super loyal, Brooks. But at some point, he's got to look at his situation and think, man, do I want to be the player that plays like 10, 12 years and I make the finals a couple of times? You know,
he's lucky.
Yeah, and that's what worries me anyway with the Tigers, because I think that you can build around Brooks and some of their forwards. I think you can add pieces to that, but if Brooks is gone and you've got to find new halves and a new hooker and a fullback and wingers, like, at some point you're just restarting again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, essentially that's what's going to happen. I think in the next year or two, they're probably going to be looking at whether they keep Robert Jennings on, David Nofaluma, Moses Mbai, Elijah Taylor, Russell Packer, Josh Reynolds, Chris Lawrence, Chris McQueen. There's a lot of players there and a lot of money tied up in them. So that gives them some leeway, but there's a lot of players you've got to buy with that money that you free up. A lot of players. And 3 of them are going to be spine players. You're going to need a 1, a 6, and a 9 out of those.
Yeah, and you just can't get that on the market. I don't care if it's the best free agent market going. You're not picking all of them up.
Not in 1 year.
No.
Not even in 2 years. You'll be flat out getting all of those in 2 seasons.
Yeah.
So they've got themselves in a really bad spot. And I'm surprised no one's talking about it, to be honest, because the roster doesn't look that fantastic, and their spine looks woeful, especially if they're going to have filling players in half of the spots. Front row rotation's thin. Back row is pretty well stocked. that's probably the only well-stocked part is the back row. But I mean, it's the West Tigers. They've always had a shit ton of back rows.
Yeah. They're really good in the centres, in the halves, at hooker, in the front row.
Yeah, make sure they can play every position. So yeah, it's. I think it's going to be. This should be the first season of yet another rebuild, but this time, let's do the fucking rebuild properly.
Yeah, 100%. Do you get I remember when we had Matthew Elliott coaching the Panthers, and I knew that if we got a certain level of success, that it would mean that we didn't have change. And eventually there were a couple of seasons, there was one season where we fluked second place and people were going off about it. And I thought it was a bit of a hammer blow to the club because it just papered over the cracks, and it meant that it was going to be a longer time before we saw the changes that needed to be made. Do you feel that way as a West Tigers fan, where you feel as though the ninth places and being close but not quite there maybe doesn't give enough incentive to make the massive changes they need, where you might be better off having a season where you come dead last so that there's that full incentive to clear the place out?
I think the club is getting very close to that bad year. And if we have a look at who the Tigers beat in 2019, you start to see that it wasn't that impressive a season when you think about it. Yeah, they beat Manly in round one, which was a good performance. Then they beat Warriors, who didn't make the finals. They beat Brisbane, who just scraped in and then got flogged in the finals. Beat the last place Titans. They beat Penrith, who was struggling horribly. Beat the Cowboys, who struggled all year. Beat South, who I think didn't have their origin players. Beat Newcastle, who struggled. Beat Cowboys, who struggled. They beat Newcastle again, who was struggling. And they beat the Dragons, who were woeful.
Yeah. Wow. Man.
There was no genuinely consistently strong results against teams in the top 8 to show to you that this is a team that's on the up, or it's a team that's going to push for a spot up in the top 8. They're just that ninth that's a very high 9. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And I think they haven't done enough to their squad to improve it to tell me that they're going to be a better team next year. This season, I think they're going to drop a fair whack.
Yeah, and when you go through that list of teams that they beat, I think it's fair to say a hell of a lot of them should be better this year. I think the Broncos, and they're poorly coached Broncos, but the Broncos, just on the fact that their youngsters are so young and they've finally got a halfback, they should be better this year.
Cowboys should be better.
The Cowboys should be better. You never know with Panthers. I've got no idea with Panthers.
Dragons should be better, but then they've got McGregor, so maybe that'll be just another 4 points if they're playing them twice.
Well, I mean, the Knights should be better. New coach. They've been together one more season. And the Gold Coast should be way, way better. If their players just put in, they'll be better, with no additions. That's another thing that worries me about the Tigers, is that I see improvement in everyone except them.
Yeah.
And the player in their team that is the linchpin and the player that can win the game for them is 35 years old.
Exactly right. And that's a big problem. And he doesn't have a reliable, strong, consistent forward pack around him to help him out either. So there's going to be games where that pack's going to be getting rolled and he's not going to have any room to move. Yeah, and those games are going to get ugly, and there's going to be a few more of those this year than when there were last year.
Yeah, and look, if he wasn't one of the all-time greats, and I consider Benji Marshall one of the all-time greats without question, who can drag a team kicking and screaming to a win they have no right to be winning. There's only so much he can do, though. There's only so much. I hate it. I hate it when I see a team that they should be a juggernaut. This is a team that has the whole MacArthur region, that has links into Balmain. They should be in such rude health.
Yeah, they've just pissed it up the wall.
Yeah. Ugh.
In potato we trust.
Well, I'm just glad they didn't overspend on Latrell Mitchell. You know, who needs a 22-year-old goal kick and test centre?
Yeah, well, given how much South have paid for him, Tigers actually lucked out there because they were probably going to spend like $1.1 million on him, and South paid half that.
I tell you what, if the Tigers had spent 1.1 on Latrell Mitchell, I would have been like, good, do it.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have been too upset at it, but
Yeah.
At the same time, I just wish they'd get their spine sorted out before they started looking at centres.
Yeah.
What's the point of having centres if you've got no distribution to get the ball out to them in the first place? You can put Mal Meninga and Andrew Eddinghausen out there if you want. They're not going to get the ball. What's the fucking point?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. At least you finally got an outside back that's not like undersized.
That's true.
How many outside backs have you had that are like Matt Utai? You know, they're just short. They can run hard. They'll try hard, but I'm happy that the West Tigers finally have someone that's, you know, a big athlete at least.
All I'm banking on at the moment is that they're going to put an offer to Josh Adokar and he accepts. Then we've got a decent speed winger.
That would be cool. That'd be very cool. Imagine if by round 3 Joey Laulu was playing in the back row.
He will be. Look at it, he'll be in the front row.
Yeah, he's playing up front and they've got a back rower.
It'll be Danny Galea all over again.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. It sucks, eh?
Oh, it does. It really does.
Oh, man.
But there we go. Well, yeah, we've got the enjoyable part out of it. We'll get on to the big news story out of today, which is not rugby league related, and that was the tragic news that NBA legend icon Kobe Bryant was killed in a tragic helicopter accident today, alongside his daughter as well.
Yeah.
A few other people in the chopper as well. Huge news, and he's only 41. And first thing I thought of when I think about Kobe was that he took the mantle from Jordan.
Yeah.
That's the legacy he ran with.
Yeah, look, I was lucky enough I've been a basketball fan for quite a long time, and so I was lucky enough to see Kobe's entire career. And I remember when the Lakers did the trade for Vlade Divac, and they sent him to the Charlotte Hornets for this young kid, Kobe Bryant. And it was a big trade at the time. Like, Lakers fans weren't real happy. And I remember when he started showing the flashes for the Lakers, and it was like looking up at the night sky and you see, a bright flash and like, oh man, what's this? This might be something. And it turned into a supernova. He was like a psychopath in terms of the way that he was competitive. And you'd only really seen that in Michael Jordan. I think the fact that Michael Jordan, even though Kobe was a young bloke when Jordan was still playing, Jordan always saw him as he saw something within himself in Kobe Bryant. And there's not many players that Michael Jordan has ever given real praise to. Hakeem Olajuwon was one. Shaq was one. Both obviously centers, so not the position that Jordan played. But Kobe was one. And Kobe was a young guy that was going at him. And you could see in a lot of the games they played against each other that Jordan really loved the fact that he had somebody that was so good that was going at him. And as you say, he really took that mantle from Jordan and carried the NBA for quite a long time. And 5 championships, MVP. He should have won more MVPs. He was the stand for a long time. The thing I loved about him was he was just when it come time to win the game, it was just his time. It was Kobe's time. And I loved watching the Lakers because it was just incredible how many times he come through in the clutch for them. When I heard the news, I got a text this morning and I couldn't believe it. I was absolutely devastated.
Yeah, no, me too. I was absolutely shocked going, nah, that can't be right. Just thinking it was one of those stupid hoaxes things. But yeah, it's just
Yeah.
stunning news. Um,
And it's sad when it's like the thing about Kobe that was a bit different from Jordan is that Kobe Bryant was that psychotic competitor, but off the court, like the players really admired him and wanted to be around him and hear from him and learn from him. Jordan wasn't really like that. He wasn't close to a lot of players like that. And Kobe was still involved in the game. I mean, we talked about this before the podcast. Just yesterday, he was there to congratulate LeBron James for passing him on the all-time scorers list, and it was very much a celebration of what they had both done. And he was involved with the Lakers. He was there at games. He talked to young players. This was a guy that was, he'd retired, but he wasn't in the twilight of his life because he retired, like a lot of sportsmen do. Like it was almost like it was the beginning of so many amazing things for Kobe. And I think that's why when something like this happens, it's like seeing a superhero pass away because, someone like Kobe Bryant, he's like a force of nature. He's like an element. He shouldn't die when he's 41.
no, that's right. He's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the impact his death is having worldwide shows just how amazingly respected he was, and took full credit to what he managed to achieve on and off the court.
Yeah, it really is. It made me think about other moments in sport in our lifetime that have had the same sort of hammer blow effect. The first one that I could think of was when Magic Johnson announced that he had HIV. Because when he announced he had HIV, people that got HIV basically died within about 6 months. And that was a real hammer blow. The next one that I could think of was Ayrton Senna when he died at Imola in 94.
Yeah, that was a huge one, Ayrton Senna's passing.
Yeah, and it was, Ayrton Senna was a similar thing. It was like superheroes aren't supposed to die like that,
No.
I
suppose another one that goes close to that is when Niki Lauda almost got killed when his car caught on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a world champion at the time and very high, very well respected, and very similar thing there. Everyone was sort of holding their hearts in their throats, I guess, thinking, hoping it'd come through.
Yeah, and like another one I thought of was when Michael Schumacher had got his head injury.
Yep.
Skiing, because I mean he's been. I remember seeing him crash at Silverstone at 280 k's an hour straight into a barrier. I thought he died. He broke his leg in that crash, and then he goes off the thing skiing, and he hits his head and like by all reports he's a vegetable now. That was another one of those hammer blow sort of things where it's really sad to see something like that happen, and to know that he passed away. He had his daughter with him. They were going to a basketball camp that he had set up for young players, and some of the other people on the chopper with him were going. He was taking them to the camp too. It's really truly devastating, and it's been a very sad day today. It's going to take a long while for a lot of people to get over this. And I'm sorry for bringing it up on the podcast. And normally we talk about cheery things and have a laugh and that, but I thought it was something to talk about. And there's two Kobe Bryant stories I'd love to tell. Right?
Yeah, go for it.
The first one, I was showing somebody Achilles injuries in the NBA only about 2 weeks ago, and there was compilation of them, and I put it on, and you could see all these players going down, and then obviously an Achilles injury is a It's a devastating injury. It's one of those ones where a lot of players know what it is as soon as it happens. And it's very painful. They know that it's at least a year, and for a lot of them, it's career changing. A lot of players in this compilation were going down, a lot of pain, going off on stretches and stuff. When Kobe did his Achilles, he was fouled, and he reached down to the back of his ankle, felt it. He walks off the court to the bench, like didn't go down or anything, walks to the court to the bench, knows he's done his Achilles, but he's got to go back and take the 2 free throws. And so goes back and takes the 2 free throws and makes them, and then walks off the court again, and he's done his Achilles. He managed to come back. His body wasn't, because of his age, his body wasn't up to it at the time to come straight back and be himself again. But in his last game, he had that legendary performance where I think he scored like 60 points or something in his last games. Just incredible. And then the other story happened actually only about a month and a half ago. And there's a player for the Mavericks called Luka Doncic who was on the sideline and he's about to inbound the pass, and I think he's Slovakian. And he hears somebody behind him trash talking him in his native language. He turns around, it's Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant knows like 7 languages or something like that. And when he saw it was Kobe Bryant, it's like it just added to Kobe Bryant's legend, because he had all of these little wrinkles to him as a person. Like he grew up in Italy because his dad played in Italy, and you know, it's so sad to know that he's gone. It was devastating to hear that. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about him a little bit on the podcast because, he's a true legend of sport, really.
Absolutely. And I mean, we saw it even tonight in the Australian Open tennis. He had Nick Kyrgios warming up, and he was wearing a Kobe Bryant Lakers jersey.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone everywhere. Everyone's going to be impacted by it because everyone just knows Kobe Bryant. You know, he was just the man for so long.
He really was. There were a lot of NBA teams because he wore 2 jerseys.
24 and 8, wasn't
it? 24 and 8, yep. And so we saw a lot of teams when they started the game today, they took the 24-second clock violation, and the other team would take the 8-second backcourt violation in tribute to him. I watched the Rockets game earlier today. I think that was the first game on the schedule, and I mean the news had just broken then. And I kind of watched it because it just seemed like the right thing to do, and you could tell that the result didn't matter, and the players talked about that after the game. Players, crying, talking about it, and coaches, Doc Rivers.
I saw the interview with Doc. Yeah, he was absolutely devastated, as you'd expect.
Yeah, and it's so sad when something like that happens, and he left behind a lot of great memories and his legacy is unbelievable. One of, if not the most loved LA Laker of all time, which is saying a lot because Magic Johnson is part of the Lakers organization, the team anyway. But yeah, I'm very sad about that today.
That's fair enough. So thoughts and best wishes to Kobe's family. I know they're probably not listening, but say it anyway because we generally do feel sorry for what's happened, and I guess not much more we can add to it. Other than that, we might wrap this episode up here on that somber note.
Yeah. So thanks to everyone for listening. You can check us out on fergoandthefreak.com. Our website's a newish website, so check us out there. Where can they follow us on social media?
Oh, look, you can get us on Twitter, Fergo Freak Pod. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. We're on bloody LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So get into us over there. On
Bastards, that's why.
Oh, mate, professionals. Get us into you. We're on there. We're on YouTube. We're on every podcasting device there is. So You got no excuses. Get around us. Leave us reviews, 5-star reviews. Leave us some comments. We'll read them out on here. We'll put them up on our website as well. Haven't had any for a while, so give us something extra to do to put on the end of these episodes instead of us gibbering on my shit.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. We'd love to be able to read one awesome review per episode. That would be great. And we've got a lot of new listeners. We know that because the numbers are going off the head. So if you're a new listener, go into iTunes, leave us a 5-star review and say something nice about us, and we'll read it out. We'll say your username and everything. So we would love that.
Yeah, we'll make you famous.
Exactly.
And if you've got a bit of coin and you want to sponsor the show, you can get in and do that as well. We've got a few packages there, and if you want to do something other than those packages, then we're always open to negotiate stuff. So you can get in touch with us, and we can organise something there as well.
Yeah, if you just email us at podcast@leaguefreak.com, and we'll get back to you on that. And yeah, we'll sort something out. We're sure that you will enjoy what we end up doing.
Absolutely. And on that note, we'll wrap this one up. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll catch you next time.